revealed. How a touching encounter with a janitor transformed an heiress' life in 30 incredible days. The skyscrapers loomed over Ryan Steele like silent judges, their glass facades reflecting a life of privilege he never quite wanted. He stood by the window of his penthouse, gripping his steaming mug of coffee, staring out at the Chicago skyline. It was magnificent, yet it felt like a gilded cage, one that closed in tighter with each tick of the clock. At 30, he was the heir to a vast fortune, yet as he looked at the world beyond, an aching void nested in his stomach. Ambition was expected of him, but the weight of family expectations crushed the spark of his desires. One day, as he absently wandered through the office building where he worked, he stumbled upon Sam, the janitor. Sam, in his weathered uniform and hard-working demeanor, was sweeping the floor with a rhythm that hinted at a storied life. Ryan paused, and with a nod of acknowledgement their eyes met. It was a simple connection, but for Ryan, that first glance felt like the first breath of fresh air in a stuffy room. A week passed and Ryan found himself sharing his coffee breaks with Sam. Under the flickering fluorescent lights, their conversations blossomed. Sam spoke of his life with a warmth that resonated deeply. He was a Vietnam veteran whose journey had been fraught with challenges. He spoke of nights spent in the jungle, the uncertainty of each day, and the pride he took in raising his children with values that he cherished. Sam's stories were real, steeped in struggle and resilience. It turned out that success wasn't just about money, it was about character, love, and commitment to one's community. Success ain't measured by the size of your bank account, Sam said one afternoon, his brown eyes locking onto Ryan's. It's about what you do for others. His words ignited a flicker of hope within Ryan, a feeling he thought had long been extinguished. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. However, everything changed one fateful night at a lavish charity gala hosted by his family. The grand ballroom was a kaleidoscope of silk and diamonds, an extravagant tribute to opulence. And there was Sam dressed in a suit borrowed from a friend, looking somehow out of place but determined. As he walked into the room, Ryan's heart raced. Scornful whispers rippled through the crowd, cutting like glass. Ryan's relatives wasted no time, their voices dripping with disdain. What is he doing here? In that moment, everything Ryan had learned from Sam threatened to dissolve in the acidic atmosphere of his family's ridicule. Ryan felt his chest tighten, the suffocating pressure of his inheritance pulling him back. Would he stand up for the man who had opened his eyes to a deeper understanding of life and struggle? Or would he retreat into the familiar comfort of wealth and status? The inner conflict raged, pushing him to question the very essence of who he was. As Sam stood before the scorn, dignity in his posture, Ryan felt the fragile bond they had forged teetering on the edge. The glimmer of wealth surrounding him began to crack, revealing a truth that shone brighter than gold, a truth about justice, respect, and human connection. With every breath, Ryan knew he was at a crossroads. His decision would not just change the course of his life, but perhaps the narrative of his family's legacy. Outside, the wind whispered against the city skyline, reminding Ryan that the horizon held answers. The next 30 days would be vital not just for him but for Sam. Would he find the strength to bridge the gap between two worlds and embrace the values that mattered? As the gala continued around him, fraught with tension, one question lingered. Could Ryan Steele redefine his path? Or would the comfort of privilege pull him back into the depths of his family's shadows? Ryan stood frozen, emotions swirling inside him like a storm. The laughter and clinking glasses of the gala faded into a dull hum, drowned out by his thoughts. Every sneer from his family felt like a knife, the sharp edges piercing at his newfound sense of worth. He glanced back at Sam, who, despite the indignity of the moment, held his head high. That quiet courage stirred something deep within Ryan, igniting the urge to act. Sam. Ryan's voice broke through the fog of hesitation. The word felt lonely in the air, floating towards Sam, who turned to meet his gaze. Ryan could see the flicker of uncertainty mirrored in Sam's eyes, no doubt reflecting the judgment of those around them. He took a deep breath. What if this was it? What if he could be that change he craved? What if he became a voice for those unheard, standing up against the privilege that had suffocated him for so long? With each thought, Ryan felt a surge of adrenaline push him forward, toward the crowd that had begun to encircle them. And then, without even knowing it, he stepped closer to Sam. The murmurs grew louder, a knot of shock and disdain danced around them. What are you doing here? Ryan's Aunt Margaret sneered, her diamond rings sparkling under the chandelier, as though they held the power to define his worth. This is no place for him, Ryan. Have you lost your mind? Ryan felt the weight of her words crush down on him but took it as fuel. The man beside him was more than just a janitor. He was a veteran, a father, a person who had experienced real struggles. If Ryan backed down now, he would lose everything he had started to build, the respect he felt for Sam and the vision for a new legacy. I'm here for Sam. He deserves to be here just like all of us, Ryan declared, his voice shaking but resolute. Silence fell over the crowd, like the moment before a storm breaks. Family members shifted uncomfortably, exchanging glances, weighing his words against their ingrained beliefs. Sam looked taken aback, his expression a mixture of gratitude and surprise. He had never intended to put Ryan in this position. This was Ryan's world after all. As the tension hung in the air like heavy fog, Ryan fought against the inevitable pushback he knew was to come. What kind of example are you setting? Another relative shouted from the back, an older cousin who had always been quick to criticize. You think this charity case belongs with us? Ryan's heart raced. The reality of his family's snobbery had never been so stark, yet it solidified his resolve. Charity? He shot back, anger lacing his voice. You call it charity, but I call it humanity. We are all people. If you can't see him for who he is, then you're the ones who don't deserve to be here. The silence seemed to stretch into eternity. For a moment, Ryan felt the eyes of the entire ballroom fixated on him with a mix of shock and disapproval. But then Sam spoke, his voice low and steady, resonating with the sincerity that had drawn Ryan to him in the first place. It's okay, Ryan. You don't have to do this. No, Ryan replied, turning to Sam with conviction. I want to. I need to. Just then, a woman at the far end of the ballroom, one Ryan recognized as a community leader, stepped forward. She wore a warm smile, her eyes twinkling with support. Ryan's right. This isn't about money. It's about connection. It's about recognizing the light in someone, no matter their status. At her words, the tension lifted slightly, replaced by a curious murmur drifting through the crowd. Ryan felt a rush of hope and fear mix within him. Was this the pivot he needed? Would others rally behind him? As he glanced over to Sam, he saw a growing determination in the older man's eyes, one that mirrored his own. But just then, another voice spoke from the crowd, dripping with disdain. You think you can change the world, Ryan? You don't even know who you are. That comment cut deeper than any knife. It echoed, reverberating in his mind. Did he really know who he was? As anguish mixed with the resolve building inside him, he pondered the question while gazing into the faces of family and strangers alike. What did identity truly mean in the face of sacrifice and service for others? Maybe this is just the beginning, he thought, heart pounding. As the faces around him shifted, some mocking, some curious, one truth became clearer: the next step wasn't just about standing up for Sam. It was about finding himself in the process. As Ryan prepared to speak again, a thought danced through his mind. What could he uncover about his true identity and worth? Whether through action or connection. The ripple effects of this night were just starting, and as the murmurs continued to rise around him, he knew there would be no turning back. Because if I can stand for anyone, maybe, he began, feeling the weight of the moment anchor him, I can finally stand for myself too. And with that, the crowd leaned in closer, as Ryan took a sharp breath, ready to dive deeper into the unknown, carrying Sam's story forward, not just for him, but for everyone still trapped in their own cages. What would be the outcome of this pivotal moment in his life? Would it lead to the freedom he so desperately sought, or would it unravel everything he thought he knew? Ryan could feel the weight of the ballroom pressing down on him, a palpable mixture of expectation and scorn swirling around. Silence had wrapped itself around him like a heavy cloak, but within that silence, a fire had ignited. The faces of his family loomed large, their disbelief and disdain evident. Yet for the first time in a long time, Ryan felt like he could push through. "Isn't it about time we started seeing beyond our titles?" he continued, his voice gaining strength. "What makes us who we are? Our jobs, our names, or the kindness we show to others?" He glanced at Sam, who stood shoulder to shoulder with him, his demeanor a mix of awe and pride. Seeing that steadiness in Sam's eyes fortified Ryan's resolve. A ripple of uncertainty began to gather in the crowd. Some shifted their weight as if reconsidering their convictions. "Understand this," Ryan pressed on, "we can only lift each other up when we let go of what divides us. I don't know who I am yet, but I know that I want to find out. And I want to do it alongside those who have been dismissed for too long." A new voice chimed in from the crowd, a younger cousin, someone who had once looked up to Ryan. "I think Ryan's right. We're all here together. Why not celebrate our differences instead of hiding from them?" Encouraged by her support, Ryan felt his heart race as murmurs of agreement started to ripple throughout the room. He looked around, catching glimpses of surprised faces slowly softening. Maybe this was the shift they all needed, the flicker that could ignite a larger conversation about identity, privilege, and worth. But just as hope blossomed, Ryan's Aunt Margaret interrupted again, her voice shrill and confrontational. "You think cozying up to a janitor will change anything? You're naive, Ryan. You'll be the joke of the family. They'll never accept this." "In that case, let me be the punchline," Ryan shot back, both defiant and emboldened. "If that's what it takes to stand for humanity, I'd happily be the new family joke." The energy in the room shifted again. Faces softened, and from somewhere near the back came an unexpected burst of laughter. It started as a quiet chuckle, but it quickly grew into full laughter. Ryan felt a strange warmth begin to spread through him. Laughter was a good sign, he thought. It was a mood lifter. Maybe change could happen after all. Sam turned to Ryan, his eyes shining with pride, a silent bond passing between them. "You're doing this," he nodded, "for all of us." Ryan took a deep breath. This was about more than just making a statement in a lavish hall. This was a leap into the unknown for himself, and Sam an exploration beyond the fragile boundaries imposed by family and status. "Let us not stop here," he said, fueled by adrenaline. "We've only begun to dig into what we can become." The applause began slowly, hesitant claps turning into thunderous praise as people bought into Ryan's call for unity. Watching the years of hurt dissolve into applause, Ryan felt invigorated. But even amidst the applause, Ryan's heart raced as he realized the true depth of the challenge ahead. Standing up was only the beginning. Would he be able to carry this momentum beyond tonight? Would his family's beliefs change? Or would he be caught in an ever-tightening web of their expectations? As laughter echoed around him, and the applause rang in his ears, Ryan understood. The moment was explosive, the potential boundless. Each clap reminded him of what was still at stake, not just in this ballroom but for anyone who felt voiceless. He turned to Sam and whispered, This is just the start, right?" But before Sam could respond, someone called out from the back with a need for clarification. "What's next, Ryan? What will you really do?" A silence fell. This wasn't just a question. It demanded a commitment, a plan for how Ryan would navigate the path ahead. And as he stood there, heart pounding with the weight of realization, Ryan knew he had to answer not just for Sam or his family, but for himself. The first step had been stepping up, but the next step would define who he really was. What would that next step be? The applause slowly faded, but the silence that followed was electric. Ryan felt the weight of that question hanging in the air. It was more than just chatter. It was an invitation to dive deeper into the unknown. What would he do next? That was a crossroads he hadn't prepared for. The faces in the crowd shifted, their disbelief crumbling into curiosity. They were waiting, and in that moment, Ryan understood the urgency of honesty. He inhaled deeply, searching for the right words that might lead to something real. "I want to create a space where everyone feels seen," Ryan began, voice cracking slightly but gaining steadiness as he went. "Not just in this ballroom but everywhere. I've hidden behind titles for too long, and I refuse to settle back into silence." Sam squeezed Ryan's shoulder, grounding him. "I want to break barriers, those invisible walls we've built for ourselves." Ryan continued, his heart pounding. "These aren't just about us as a family. but about all the families and individuals that go unseen. The janitor I mentioned? They have stories worth listening to, and I want to be part of that change. A flicker of understanding sparked among the guests, and he could see it in their eyes. Some nodded along, others whispered to each other. Each reaction sent adrenaline coursing through him. It was happening. Change was allowed to seep into this room, and maybe even into their hearts. Let us start a program, Ryan proposed, his mind racing at the possibilities. A mentorship that uplifts different voices, that teaches empathy alongside privilege. I want to invite people who've been overlooked into our lives, so we can learn together. Hope hung in the air like a promise, each word igniting a new light. Laughter still echoed from earlier, mixing with murmurs of thoughtfulness rising from the crowd. The atmosphere transformed again, shifting from disbelief to tentative support. And Ryan added, looking directly at Aunt Margaret, I want to make this family aware of our duty. We must reach outside our walls. If we truly understand our privileges, we can use them for good. Aunt Margaret opened her mouth to protest but closed it. He could see the gears turning in her mind. Perhaps his words were sinking in just a little. Let us not make this about one night, Ryan urged. This is about a commitment to each other. Will you join me? It felt surreal. Standing there, he could see the tide beginning to turn. With each approving nod, adrenaline rushed through him. A cousin spoke up, breaking the hesitating silence. You're right. We need to hear more perspectives. Let us do this. Words of encouragement followed, the ripple of shared stories taking shape. The burden of expectations began to transform into something lighter, a collective vision sparking in their eyes. Ryan stood taller as more voices joined the discussion, suggesting ideas, sharing personal experiences, revealing depth in their relationships. The room was shifting, but even amid this momentum, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling of vulnerability. Each person who joined the dialogue opened pathways he hadn't navigated before. Was he truly ready for the next chapter that beckoned? As the energy surged, a new question began to echo in his heart. Could he truly step outside his comfort zone? Would he be able to confront the past while guiding his family to face a new future? The sound of excitement wrapped around him, but the knot of uncertainty still nestled in his gut. As Ryan looked around, something flickered in the back of his mind, a vision of who he could be if he embraced this change wholeheartedly. Will we stand together? He asked finally, locking eyes with Sam. Together, Sam confirmed, squeezing Ryan's hand with unyielding support. The moment was transformative, yet the stakes felt higher than ever. Their shared journey was just beginning, and the weight of that reality filled Ryan with both dread and exhilaration. But just as things seemed to align, another voice called out from the back. What if we're met with resistance? What's your backup plan? Every heartbeat echoed in Ryan's ears. It was another challenge, another crossroads with the echoes of laughter still hanging in the air. He realized the next step wouldn't just shape who he was, but it would also define the family legacy in ways none of them could yet imagine. What would he have to sacrifice for this dream to unfold? Ryan's heart raced at the question, the weight of it pressing heavily on him. Silence stretched between him and the crowd like the vast desert of uncertainty, a chilling reminder of the doubts that came with change. Do you think I haven't thought about that? He finally replied, his voice steadying with determination. I know it won't be easy, but resistance isn't something to fear. It's actually a part of growth. We can't ignore it. We need to embrace it. A ripple of murmurs spread through the audience, some nodding in reluctant approval, others still hesitant. The faint scent of wood polish and polished shoes blended with the tension as guests exchanged glances, weighing their loyalty to family against the commitment to change. I get that not everyone will agree with me, or support this idea, Ryan added, his gaze sweeping across the room, searching for familiar faces. But that's the point, isn't it? We need the hard conversations. We need to face the resistance together. Otherwise we'll stay trapped in our own bubbles. He felt Sam's reassuring grip tighten around his hand. The warmth surged through him, a lifeline pulling him back from the precipice of doubt. A distant voice rose, hesitant but curious. How do we even start? It was his cousin Leah, whose innocent question struck a chord with Ryan. He took a moment, looking at her and the earnestness in her eyes. We start by listening. By being open to experiences outside our own, Ryan responded. We can create small gatherings, maybe invite some of those overlooked voices into our homes, and really hear their stories. We can learn from them, understand their struggles. Imagine how powerful that could be. The crowd seemed to lean in closer, drawn to his vision like moths to a flame. For a moment it felt electric and awakening. Hope flowed like a river, carving paths through the uncertainty. But what if? Another voice, deeper this time, cut through the excitement. It was Uncle Gary, skepticism etched all over his face. What if all we get back is anger? What if it doesn't work out like you think? Ryan paused, contemplating the weight of this challenge. Then we stand with that anger. We face it head on. But if we avoid the tough issues now, we'll just pass them on to the next generation. Change has to start somewhere, and it starts with us. His words seemed to resonate, the tense atmosphere shifting ever so slightly. There were nods now, some quiet murmurs of agreement whispering through the room. And if we mess up? Leah broke in again, her sincerity shining through. What do we do then? Ryan smiled, feeling something settle within him. We apologize, learn, and try again. This isn't about perfection. This is about progress. None of us have all the answers. But together we can find them. He could see Aunt Margaret, her old-fashioned beliefs battling with the fire of transformation ignited in the room. She squirmed in her seat, the inner conflict palpable. But a flicker of intrigue danced behind her glasses. Maybe she could see it too. The conversation swirled, voices blending into an intricate tapestry of hope, uncertainty, and shared purpose. Each participant began contributing ideas, tentative at first but quickly building momentum. They were brainstorming workshops, community outreach, and ways to connect with those on the fringes of society. But as Ryan watched this take shape, a nagging doubt still pricked at him. What if the momentum died just as quickly as it was born? Families had routines, getting comfortable was second nature. The thought of slipping back into old habits loomed like a shadow. Just then another thought struck him, one that had been lurking. What if they got it wrong? What if they hurt people in the process? Can we truly handle this? He blurted out, the urgency spilling uncontrollably. What if our good intentions cause more harm than good? The room fell quiet, the laughter and chatter dissolving into a shared heaviness. People looked around, glancing at each other, vulnerability weaving its way through their ranks. There it was, the real question, the pivotal point where everything could change. How would they respond? Would they fortify their resolve or draw back into safety? The moment stretched on, emotions swirling in the charged air, waiting for someone to break the silence. And as Ryan held his breath, anticipation curled in the pit of his stomach. He could only wonder, was he ready for whatever came next? As the silence enveloped the room, Ryan felt the weight of 100 eyes on him, each one searching for guidance, a beacon in the storm of emotions swirling around. His heartbeat thudded in his ears, a melodic reminder of the stakes at hand. He took a deep breath, collecting his scattered thoughts. Let me tell you a story, he said, his voice rising slightly, hoping to dispel the tension. A few months ago I was in a coffee shop, scrolling through my phone, lost in my own little world. Just then, an older janitor came by to clean my table. I noticed he was humming a tune. It was an old folk song, one I recalled from childhood. I looked up and smiled, and he paused, exchanging one of the brightest smiles I'd ever seen. He told me it was a song his mother used to sing. The crowd hung on his words, leaning in as if anxious to hear more. I asked him why he still hummed it, and he said, music brings people together. It reminds us of where we come from and what we've lost. At that moment I realized that it didn't matter what job he had. He carried stories and memories rich enough to fill a room. How many of us overlook those simple yet profound moments? Ryan scanned the room, finding a mix of expressions. Curiosity, realization, a flicker of understanding flickered in Aunt Margaret's eyes. This was more than just a debate about change. It was about connection, shared stories that could heal wounds they often ignored. It hit me, he continued. If we want to make real progress, we have to start with those little connections like the one I had with that janitor. We need to open our hearts to the lives of people around us, not just those we know or understand. The murmurs that rose this time felt different. They were not merely whispers of doubt but were laced with the threads of possibility. Ryan could feel the shift. It was as if a gust of fresh wind swept through, shaking loose particles of apprehension. For too long he pressed on. We dismiss voices because they don't fit into our narrative. Yet every person has a story worth hearing. Maybe we can organize community dinners, invite that janitor or any overlooked soul to share their journey. Imagine the bridge we can build if we invite others to join our table. Excitement pulsed in the room. Ideas began to take flight. People chatted at once, proposing names and dates for gatherings, discussions on how to outreach. Ryan smiled, the joy on his face vibrated back to Sam, whose eyes sparkled with pride. But then, a new voice cut through the enthusiasm. It was Ryan's brother, Jacob, his brow furrowed. That sounds great, Ryan, but he hesitated, concern edging into his tone. What if the people we bring don't want to share? What if they come with their own grudges? The optimism faltered slightly, and Ryan's pulse quickened again. Anticipation was spliced with doubt. Then we let them be honest. We create a space where they can express that. It's vital. Only through confronting those issues can we heal and transform. Those feelings shouldn't be pushed aside. The air grew thick with contemplation. Moments of silence punctuated the waves of conversation. People seemed to consider what Ryan had said, weighing potential pitfalls against the promise of growth. Then Leah spoke up again, her voice soft but firm. And if we mess up, can we still be friends? I mean, you're saying we can learn from mistakes, but Ryan nodded, grateful for her honesty. Absolutely. This is about building resilience together. Friendships can survive discomfort, right? This is a step, not the final destination. A soft smirk showed up on Jacob's face, and hope began to bloom once more. The atmosphere brightened, though doubt still lingered like a stubborn shadow. Just when Ryan thought they were moving toward a collaborative spirit, he noticed Uncle Gary stepping forward, his expression grave yet filled with a tinge of vulnerability. What if someone feels hurt instead of helped? What if we make things worse instead of better? The question hung heavier than ever, spotlighting the heart of their challenge. Did they truly have the strength to face potential fallouts? Ryan felt the crowd's collective breath hitch. Fingers twitched nervously. He looked from face to face, considering the importance of honesty and emotional scars, but knew they had come too far to turn back. Then we willingly bear that weight together. What if they stumbled? What if they failed? A paradox loomed over them. Would they allow fear to keep them stagnant? Ryan swallowed hard, the next sentence on the tip of his tongue, ready to declare that failure wasn't a dead end, but rather a loop on the path to growth. But in that second, an alarm rang out, an unexpected emergency alert blaring in the distance, cutting mercilessly through the tension and shattering their moment of connection. He turned sharply towards the sound, and fear surged through him. What just happened? The room buzzed with anxiety, and Ryan's heart raced. This wasn't just a conversation about change anymore. Something was about to disrupt their progress. They couldn't ignore this. As curiosity hung thick in the air, the question loomed larger than before. Would their efforts survive the chaos that now approached? The sirens continued to wail, echoing through the walls like a piercing reminder that life often throws us unexpected trials. Faces turned from Ryan to the door, hearts racing, breaths held tight. Panic began to ripple through the crowd, and Ryan felt his own heartbeat quicken, wild with uncertainty. What's going on? He breathed, a knot forming in his stomach. I don't know, Sam replied, glancing nervously around the room. Voices started to rise, some whispering prayers, others just wondering whether they should leave. Ryan stepped closer to the window, squinting against the neon glare of emergency lights filtering through the glass. The crimson glow framed a scene he could barely make out. People rushed about outside, their shadows darting in a chaotic dance, and though the urgency felt tangible, the details were lost in the distance. Stay calm. He finally called out, forcing authority into his voice. We need to know what's happening. Let us not panic. A muted conversation sprung up again, but the fear was palpable. Uncertainty swirled like shadows in the corners of the room. Aunt Margaret, usually so steady, appeared lost, her hands trembling slightly as she clasped them together, a silent prayer in her eyes. Ryan faced the crowd again, taking a deep breath, letting it steady his nerves. We've been talking about connection, understanding, and growth. Whatever this alarm is, let us not lose sight of that. Jacob stared hard at Ryan, and for a moment, Ryan sensed that underlying worry from his brother hadn't vanished. It was just hidden behind a mask of bravery. Ryan, maybe we should step outside, he said, voice low. Maybe, Ryan replied slowly, eyes moving back to the door. But another voice broke through the anxiety, Leah, stepping forward with a sparkle of determination. We can't forget we're a community. What if this is about neighboring events that affect us all? Isn't this the kind of connection we've been discussing? Some people nodded, their frowns relaxing somewhat. It was an invitation to use this moment as a chance to come together. Ryan felt a flicker of hope rekindle. But what if Uncle Gary's voice, still thick with concern, interrupted? What if it tears us apart instead? No, Sam interjected, steely. We can't think like that. We should face it together. Like we said, don't let fear dictate our actions. We need to show we can handle whatever comes our way. The murmurs intensified, resonating with Leah's resolve and Sam's bravery. Ryan raised his hand in an effort to regain control. Then it's settled. We'll go outside. We stand united. If there's trouble, we'll meet it together. With a collective breath, they grouped near the exit, glancing over one another like a battalion preparing for an uncertain battle. As Ryan pushed the door open, the world outside revealed a flurry of flashing lights and frantic voices. What are we looking at? Jacob asked tightly, scanning the scene unfolding outside. A nearby fire truck, bright and loud, had parked crookedly on the street, the air thick with apprehension. First responders dashed like shadows, attending to a small crowd gathered near an overturned vehicle. Dumping adrenaline filled Ryan's veins. He turned back with urgency, hoping to maintain that fragile resolve within the room. Stay here and hold tight, he shouted over the chaos. If they need us, we'll step up. Just as he finished, a familiar face broke through the crowd, a neighbor from down the street, her voice raised in panic. Ryan, you need to help. It's Mrs. Adams, she didn't get out in time. Shock cascaded through Ryan as dread enveloped him. Mrs. Adams, the kind woman who brought cookies every holiday. The thought of her in danger ripped at his heart. He looked back at his family and friends, awakened by this emotional storm. We can't just stand here. Who's with me? With renewed urgency, he took a step towards the chaos outside. There was no turning back now. They were in this together, ready to face whatever awaited them. As they rallied together, a profound realization hit Ryan. He had the power to connect, to take action, to unite. But was that enough this time? Would bravery be their saving grace, or had the moment already gone too far? The weight of uncertainty lingered, poised on the edge of every heart as they stepped into the chaos. Ryan's heart raced as he edged closer to the scene. The flicker of emergency lights bounced off the asphalt like a neon nightmare. He turned back to his friends, who looked ready to follow him into the storm. Fear gripped them, but so did an unyielding spirit. Let us move, he commanded, the decision ignited by desperation. They surged forward, forming a tight-knit wall of color amidst the gray chaos. A sense of purpose pulled them together. Every heartbeat echoed with solidarity, a shared mission rising from the ashes of fear. As they approached the wreckage, the sharp scent of burnt metal mixed with the acrid tang of spilled gasoline. Paramedics worked swiftly, their voices steady despite the chaos. Ryan's stomach twisted at the sight of an overturned car. Metal crumpled like a soda can. Panic coursed through him. Where was Mrs. Adams? Stay close, he told Jacob, Sam, and Leah. Their eyes reflected his anxiety, but they nodded, resolute. He weaved through the flurry of responders, each step heavy with dread. Mrs. Adams, he shouted, the name ripping from his lips like a lifeline. He searched the crowd. A knot tightened in his throat as he spotted a group huddled near the scene, a woman sobbing into her hands. Is she? Ryan stammered, dread threatening to pull him under. A firefighter turned, weary yet focused. We're getting her out. Stay back. The command felt like a weight on Ryan's chest. He wanted to help, to do something, anything. He glanced back at his friends. Sam was wide-eyed, Leah's face pale. Jacob's jaw was set tight, the lines of determination etched deep. We can support them, Leah said, her voice cutting through the gloom. Everyone, let us clear a path. We need to give them room. Ryan felt hope surge. He took a deep breath, moving with purpose. Okay, let us make space, he shouted, rallying others to join. We can't crowd them. As they pushed the spectators back, a palpable energy thrummed in the air. Gradually, the crowd began to separate, and Ryan realized that every small act they took had a ripple effect. He felt a spark of connection as they rallied, as if their collective resolve was a force to be reckoned with. Minutes passed like hours, but the paramedics worked with relentless determination. And then he saw it. Mrs. Adams, bruised but alive. Relief surged through him, flooding his veins. The paramedics gingerly placed her on a stretcher, her eyes fluttering open. "Ryan, is that you?" she murmured, her voice strained but filled with warmth. "Yes, Mrs. Adams. We're here," Ryan shouted, tears pricking at the corners of his eyes. "You're going to be okay." The sight of her fragile smile, even through the haze of pain, anchored Ryan's heart. But as the stretcher rolled away, a thought struck him. A slow realization sank in. The power of community was not just about facing tragedy. It was about love carrying through in moments of fear. "Let us go," Ryan urged, motioning to his friends as hope eclipsed dread. They followed the stretcher, their unity a beacon in the dark. The atmosphere vibrated with relief, the collective breath they all took lifting spirits just a little higher. But as they moved forward, Ryan spotted movement in the shadows, a figure slightly apart from the chaos. A janitor, diligently pushing a broom, seemingly unfazed by the pandemonium. Curiosity mixed with intrigue, pulling Ryan's gaze. Something told him this person held stories. "Who are you?" Ryan wondered quietly, feeling an inexplicable pull toward the figure. Just then the man glanced up and their eyes connected. In that fleeting moment, Ryan felt the weight of possibility. Could this encounter reveal something profound? The air crackled with anticipation as Ryan stepped closer, welcoming a new thread to the tapestry of their unexpected journey ahead. Ryan took a tentative step toward the janitor, his heart thumping louder with every inch he closed. The man's face was lined with age, but his eyes sparkled with an unexpected wisdom. He looked as if he belonged to another world, yet here he was, a silent observer of the frantic scene. "Are you okay?" Ryan managed to ask, his voice cutting through the noise of the crowd. The janitor paused, his broom coming to rest at his side. "I've seen many things, kid," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "But what's important is how you deal with them." Ryan put his hands in his pockets, feeling the warmth of the words settle in. There was something about this man that sparked a deep curiosity in him. "Do you work here?" Ryan asked, glancing at the wreckage, the bright lights, the people frantically trying to make things better. The janitor chuckled softly, brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead. "You could say I'm the unsung hero. We all have our roles to play, some are just louder than others." Ryan frowned, feeling an unnameable connection. "But why are you just sweeping?" "Because sometimes even in chaos there's a need for order. It might not seem like much, but small actions contribute to bigger changes. Like what you're doing here tonight." The janitor nodded toward the paramedics and the stretcher, his eyes glinting with approval. Ryan's thoughts spun. What this man said resonated deeply. His heart clenched as he thought about Mrs. Adams and the community rallying together. "You're right," he said. "It's about showing up for each other, isn't it?" "Exactly. So ask yourself, what will you choose to show up for?" The janitor studied him intently. Before Ryan could respond, they were interrupted by the commotion of sirens blaring in the distance. He turned, momentarily distracted by the approaching emergency vehicles. Quick shuffles and anxious murmurs rose from the crowd as they realized more assistance was on its way. "Do you think they'll be okay?" Ryan's voice wavered, worry creeping back in. The janitor's expression softened. "You have the power to influence that, you know. Your hope can be like a lifeline thrown into troubled waters." Ryan stared at the man, absorbing his words. It felt like a strange encouragement, yet it made his heart swell. The burden of helplessness began to inch away, replaced by the spark of agency. "Thank you," Ryan said genuinely. "I don't know how, but I feel different now. Like I can make a difference." "Then go ahead and do it," the janitor replied, a gentle smile breaking through the wear of his face. "But remember, transformation isn't just about the loud moments, it's the quiet ones that can ignite change, too. Trust in what you feel." As the sirens wailed closer, Ryan took a deep breath, his resolve strengthening. He turned to rejoin his friends, finding support amongst them once again. The weight of collective worry was lighter now, and as the paramedics continued their work, A newfound clarity filled his mind. Ryan glanced back at the janitor, ready to share what he had just learned, but the man had already turned back to his sweeping, as if the moment had passed. It was as if he had vanished into the backdrop of chaos. "Don't forget," the janitor called over his shoulder, just loud enough for Ryan to hear. "Every broom can push away a little dust, but it's up to you to see the bigger picture." Ryan felt a shiver run through him, the implications of the janitor's words painting every speck of dust with meaning. As he dove back into the fray, excitement coursed through him for the first time since the accident. What did this mean for him and the community? How would he shape not just his life but the lives of those around him? A new path had opened, and Ryan was ready to find out just how far it could lead him. What revelations awaited him next in this journey? The shuddering lights of the emergency vehicles flickered in Ryan's eyes as he rejoined his friends, determination etched across his features. With Sam, Leah, and Jacob at his side, he felt that strange mix of hope and fear coiling within him again. They exchanged glances, a silent pact forged in tiny moments of courage and connection. "Let us gather around, everyone. We need to coordinate our efforts," Ryan called out to the crowd, his voice stronger than ever before. Hearts began to pick up the beat alongside his, a rising tide sweeping them all along. Every person seemed ready to contribute, stepping up to respond to the chaos around them, a community coming together in a defining moment. As the paramedics worked methodically, Ryan saw families become part of the heartbeat of the scene. People shared stories, lent hands, and organized those willing to help. Each small action became a brushstroke painting a vibrant picture of solidarity against the backdrop of crisis. Together, they coalesced into an embodiment of humanity, care, and purpose. With every second that passed, he felt that flicker of uncertainty dissolve beneath the weight of something far grander. Hope flourished, roots digging deep within the shared stories of strength and resilience present in each face around him. Ryan felt empowered, the urgency of the moment transforming into a rush of life that promised to elevate everyone. Hours flew by and the sun dipped low, casting a warm glow over the scene. As night settled, something shifted in Ryan. He was no longer standing solely on the precipice of change. He had stepped into the midst of it. "Ryan, look." Leah pointed toward the paramedics as they gingerly rolled Mrs. Adams into an ambulance, her face calm and relieved despite the chaos that had unfolded. Tears sprang to Ryan's eyes as a wave of gratitude washed over him. Her survival was a testament to the power of community, and the spark that was ignited through shared connections. It was real. They had faced something overwhelming and emerged together. But amidst the buzzing of the crowd, something profound coursed through his veins. "We can't stop here," he thought, determination swelling anew. Once Mrs. Adams was loaded into the ambulance, Ryan gathered everyone. "Listen," he started, catching the intent gazes of his friends, family, and neighbors. "What we just did tonight, this is just the beginning of a new legacy. We can expand on this, build something together that reaches beyond just one moment." "Are you suggesting we create a community action group?" Jacob's voice rang with excitement, the fire igniting hope within their hearts. "Yes, we can meet regularly, turn this energy into action," Ryan continued passionately. "Let us transform lives. Let us hear those unheard voices. We need to take this work beyond the walls of our lives and make an impact." A chorus of affirmations erupted from the crowd. Ideas began to bounce around, fueling excitement: workshops, mentorships, outreach programs to those in their community who needed support and connection. As the night unfolded, Ryan's thoughts drifted back to the janitor, the man who had whispered such profound wisdom. He understood now what it meant to build a legacy worth fighting for. Ryan realized that the path of transformation wasn't just a solitary journey. It meant bringing others along the way, empowering them to find their own voice. "Together we can make this a movement," Ryan encouraged, the fire in his heart matching the fervor around him. "We don't need to wait for another emergency to embrace connection. We can create the change we want to see." One voice called out from the crowd, "Count me in." Others echoed in agreement, united in purpose, their spirits illuminated with the promise of tomorrow. Ryan felt the warmth of friendship and shared passion wrap around him, filling his heart with excitement. He glanced at Sam, who stood by his side, a proud smile gracing his face. In that moment, Ryan realized how far he had come from the gilded cage of privilege to the shimmering light of possibility forged through connection. As they stood together, ready to face whatever lay ahead, Ryan knew this was just the beginning of their adventure. Each smile and shared story mirrored the essence of community he had longed to nurture. "Let us get to work," Ryan proclaimed, glancing at the faces around him overwhelmed yet hopeful. "The world is waiting for us. Together, we will ensure that no one goes unheard." Applause erupted in the night air, a testament of their collective resolve. The sirens that had once signaled chaos now intertwined with laughter and unity. Hope shone brightly, illuminating their path, and for the first time in months, Ryan felt whole. As they turned toward the next horizon, fresh chapters awaited a wild, unpredictable journey of growth, resilience, and love. It was a promise of transformation that they would carry with them. A legacy that meant more than wealth. It was family, empathy, and a life lived to serve others. And with that, the spark ignited a flame, reminding them that together, they could conquer the world. Now we need your voice to be part of our journey too. Don't let this transformative moment fade away. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because your support matters. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.